Vijay gave his first major public speech since becoming chief minister, and he used almost none of it to talk about governing. What he did instead and the reactions it triggered tells us exactly what kind of leader he plans to be. And I'm recording this on Wednesday, June 3rd, here in the US, 2 days after the speech, because I wanted to wait for the reactions first. 5 big moments from Trichy and 3 controversies they triggered. You might want to stick around because it is really interesting. So, this was his goodbye speech to Trichy East. Vijay won this constituency in the election. He also won Perambur in Chennai. By law, a member can hold only one seat. He is keeping Perambur. Trichy East now goes to a by-election. He promised the crowd in that speech that the candidate will be someone from this very constituency. That promise drew loud applause. But the rest of the speech was something most people did not expect. It was not a governance speech, not a single major policy announcement, no timelines, no budgets, no project launches. What it was 5 moments that had thousands on their feet. Moment 1. Vijay has been wearing black and white formal suits since becoming chief minister. Critics have been mocking it. Too flashy, too film star, not political enough. He addressed it directly on this speech. He said, black and white, just like my mind, just like my politics. Everything I do will be black and white, no grey areas, and he has already backed that up in action. He moved to close the Tasmac liquor outlets, he fast tracked the farmers' loan waiver, the crowd roared. Moment 2. Before the election, MK Stalin made a public statement. He said the DMK would give Vijay's government 6 full months before mounting any criticism. That was a rare show of political restraint. Vijay's response in Trichy. They said 6 months. They could not manage 6 days. 30 minutes after I took the oath, they had already started. The crowd laughed, and I think the point landed. Moment 3. This was the sharpest line in the entire speech. Stalin's side had been suggesting that TVK voters were emotionally swept away. Glamour, fan sentiment, not rational thinking. Vijay turned it around. He said, these same people voted for you for decades. Were they intelligent then? And suddenly foolish now, just because they voted for us? I think people needed change, and they voted for it. Only time can answer whether they got the right one. Moment 4. Vijay alleged that in the days before the government was formed, the DMK and other parties quietly tried to build a coalition to block TVK from taking power. He named Stalin directly. He said they sat in a corner, they plotted, they negotiated, all to stop this government. The DMK pushed back immediately. Their official response described it as crocodile tears. What is crocodile tears? It means false emotion, an old phrase from the belief that crocodiles cry while eating their prey. The tears look real, but there is nothing genuine behind them. The DMK is essentially saying, you won, you are the chief minister, you have the mandate. What exactly is the grievance? That is worth sitting with. And the moment 5. On women's safety, Vijay announced a new all-women police unit, Singapen Kaval Padai, launching the following week. He said the previous government allowed drug culture to spread to every street, every village, and that created the conditions where women became very vulnerable. On electricity, he also clarified that the original 100-unit free power scheme was set up by former Chief Minister Jayalalitha, not DMK, and that the previous government left behind locked treasury doors and incomplete files. On corruption, he said, I did not come to politics to deceive anyone. I came to stand with you one day, not overnight. But one day, I will give you a government with zero corruption. I love this because he is not setting any false expectations. Corruption is not something that anyone can get rid of overnight. Now, something Vijay should take home from these first few weeks in the Chief Minister's chair, there will always be people poking at him, questioning his suit, his silence in the assembly, whether he is governing or just rallying. That will never stop. It did not stop before the election either. While the critics laughed and said he could never win, he kept his head down, he stayed on direction, he kept his promise to the people, and he won. The same discipline that got him here is the only thing that will keep him here. The answer to criticism in politics is not a better comeback line. It is what you build. And on that note, one thing worth saying about the suit movement. A government that is truly black and white should not need to explain its color in a speech. It should show up in actions. That time in Trichy could have gone toward a governance announcement, a project, a deadline, a number, something the people of Trichy East could hold him to. He showed that discipline before the election, the next step showing it from the Chief Minister's chair. But there is one factual tension in this speech that deserves to be named. Vijay attacked the DMK for post election coalition discussions. He called it a conspiracy against democracy. But Vijay's own government was formed with outside support from VCK, CPI, CPIM, and IUML, all parties that had contested against TVK in the election. Political analyst R. Elongovan said this clearly to the federal. He said, when you accept post poll support from parties that contested against you, you cannot question the political morality of others discussing alliances. This is not a verdict on Vijay. Coalition government are a reality of Indian democracy, but the argument loses its moral weight when both sides did the same thing. Now, let's talk about the reactions. And this is where it gets really interesting. DMK's official statement described Vijay's words as crocodile tears, which I said earlier. They said Stalin had committed to constructive opposition from day one, while Vijay was manufacturing victimhood at a Thanksgiving rally. The DMK IT wing went further with a direct challenge. They said, if you truly have courage, release a letter submitted to the governors taking claim to form the government. Let the people see what actually happened. Senior DMK leader A. Raja pushed back using Vijay's own casual language. What, bro? What is happening, bro? He pointed out that Vijay barely speaks in the Tamil Nadu assembly. I'm pretty sure people have been watching those assembly floors. That opposition leader Udayanidhi Stalin raised questions and received no answers. Raja also raised something the Trichy crowd never heard about. Vijay had just returned from Delhi, where he met Prime Minister Narendra Modi for 25 minutes, his first official visit to the capital since becoming Chief Minister. Raja asked, after meeting the Prime Minister, why did Vijay return to Chennai without addressing the media? A Chief Minister owes the press a briefing after a state visit. This is a constitutional responsibility. I think that is a very fair point. And there is a second layer to the Delhi visit that deserves attention. Vijay met Prime Minister Modi. He also met Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. He raised important issues like Mekadatu Dam, Tamil fisherman, GST dues. But he did not meet his coalition partner Rahul Gandhi. He did not meet Sonia Gandhi. Congress is a coalition partner. 5 seats propping up his government. Reports confirmed a breakfast meeting with Rahul Gandhi was scheduled, then called it off. Congress said it was postponed, not cancelled. A Niti Aayog summit on June 11 was floated as a possible window. But here is why this matters beyond protocol. TVK is actively pulling AIADMK members and cadres into its fold. A TVK minister claimed 90% of AIADMK members and cadres will eventually join TVK. Congress is reportedly unhappy about this. When your coalition partner is uneasy and you skip their top leadership while in Delhi, that is not a small thing. AIADMK also fired back at the speech in a sarcastic response to the suit movement. They said Vijay could wear suits and even buy a house in Poyas Garden. Nobody is bothered about it. The real competition between TVK and DMK, they said, is in deceiving people and failing to fulfill promises. So, from one speech in Trichy, three directions of fire simultaneously. DMK, AIADMK, and quiet tension inside his own coalition. Raja's question still stands. Why so loud in Trichy and so quiet in the assembly floor? Vijay will need to answer that, not in a rally in the assembly chamber. MGR held power for 12 years. Jayalalitha held it for nearly 2 decades. Vijay invoked both their names in Trichy. He said he walks the same path as MGR and Anna. That is a high bar. The people of Tamil Nadu gave him their votes, their trust, their hope. The real speech, the one that will actually matter, is not the one he gave in a college ground. It is the one written in the lives of the people he serves. The building has started. The question is the pace.